Hi everyone, welcome to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining us as we kick off your Friday afternoon heading into the weekend. And as we usually do, we welcome in former state representative, former Deputy Secretary of State, now heads up the nonprofit Stages of Freedom, Ray Rickman, to give his big view.
So, last night, the City Council in Providence agreed to give someone a $19 million tax break. They're building kind of 3 buildings on vacant lot, Steeple Street, Canal, North Main, across from Mills Tavern, next to their new building that they just finished, College Edge 1. Now they're going to build College Edge 2. And they're going to fill the little gap in, kind of tooth-gapped. And it's going to have commercial on the first floor. So it's very good. It's a very, very good idea to make that whole block whole again, from Thomas Steeple Street going up to Roger Williams National Park. Good idea. Love it. $19 million tax break, 85% no taxes for 20 years. It's $1 million a year. I'm not so sure on. It may turn out that the tax break's more than the taxes they would have paid. Now, would they have done it without it? They're putting $65 million in, and they're going to save $20 million with that tax break. Now, there could be other breaks that we don't know about, a little federal here and a little state here, and Lord knows, nobody likes to pay retail anymore when they're building a building. And sometimes you have to do the math. Would it work if they didn't get these breaks? And sometimes it doesn't. So, is the break too much? Dare says yes. I say, I think it's too much. But the discussion isn't good enough. We don't get to see the financial records to get a real sense of, is this what it needs to be in order for them to do it? Now, I am in favor. I don't care what my progressive, liberal, socialist, left-wing friends say. I'm in favor of new housing for college students. I don't want us to be ripped off. Now, this lot was paying $40,000 a year in taxes. They probably should have been paying more. A very productive, rich parking lot. If we get $80,000, we've doubled what we would have gotten. But again, if you or I went and built something there, we probably wouldn't get this deal. I'd love to get my taxes reduced by 85% for the next 20 years. Really would. So I think John Igliosi and others on that council needs to put together a panel. And the panel needs to look at tax breaks, future. I always hate this because we take this issue up one at a time. People are opposed, people are in favor. We need to take up and make a policy. How long should the tax break be? 20 years I think is too long, but that's my opinion. How big should it be? 19 million for this? I think it's too much, but am I right? Who knows? What do we have to do to encourage them to do it there? Not a lot, because they're going to fill it up with rich students from RISD and Brown. They are, and a few from Providence College. So they need to do that there. Retail is going to work there. Fancy restaurant is my guess. So, I want students to quit taking regular working class people's houses, because that's what's going on. They are moving into all kinds of neighborhoods and forcing working class people to go to Woonsocket or wherever. And if they had their own housing, they wouldn't do that. That's why I favor it. Finally, on the Fain building, since I may not get a chance to talk about this again, I am absolutely in favor of the Fain building. Tall, elegantly different. People say that it belongs in Bahrain, you know. Maybe it does. but it also belongs and is in Chicago and New York and the like, Los Angeles. Why can't we have a building that everyone stares at? Why can't we have a building that looks down the bay to Newport on a clear day that rich people want to live in? Currently, rich people are showing up. Someone just bought a house, paid $1 million for it, put $1 million in it, and they weren't working class, but the professor who was there is gone to East Providence. We have a lot of pressure on us. I think we need to build housing for rich people that doesn't take away housing for working class, or even better than working class people in the West End of Providence, on College Hill even. We're making a mistake when we're opposed to housing for rich people. I'm opposed to housing for rich people that drives working class people away. I'm not opposed to bringing rich people downtown to buy things in Providence.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel. Would like to thank Ray Rickman, the former state rep, for coming in to give his big view this week on tax breaks. But now I'd like to welcome my next guest, a regular, Bob Wickham. Thanks for coming in today.
Kate? Nice to see you.
Let's riff.
Fall day, very cool.
Beautiful day, finally. I think we deserve it. It was kind of a rainy week, and it looks like it's going to be a nice weekend.
Yeah, warmer than usual, I think.
Well, I think I'm going to try to. I'm going to hit the
It's
pool.
killing all the lobsters, you know. The warm water.
Is it?
Yeah, it's killing the lobsters. Yeah.
Well, we don't like that, even if I am trying to hit the
Well,
pool
we can all
this
move to
weekend.
Greenland and try the lobsters up there. Club Med Greenland.
Club Med Greenland. Let's start off with what Ray Rickman was talking about. A recent TSA was just approved by the City Council last night. This is a 20-year one for that project down at the bottom of College Hill, Steeple Street.
Right.
And there was some opposition to
Saw
it,
that, yeah.
saying 20 years. I'll tell you, it was interesting. I spoke with a council person yesterday who said, look, if it remained empty, the parking lot pays $50,000 a year in taxes. Over 20 years, we'd get about $1 million.
Yeah.
So if we're going to cut them a break at 18 and then get 23 over 20 years instead, should we really be complaining? So there's really two sides to this
I'm in favor of filling every parking lot with a building. Parking lots are terrible. They say go away. It almost sounds counterintuitive, but parking lots, especially in a beautiful area like that at the bottom of College Hill, they look terrible. Absolutely. We need more mass transit, more bicycles and stuff like that, but put a building there. Absolutely. Fill it up. Density. Density is good.
So you weigh in that argument. And what about the argument from the folks that say, well, it's just giving a break to developers and the city loses out?
Name me a developer who isn't getting a break.
No, pretty
Find
much.
one. Name one. Name one.
They're pretty much all here.
That's right.
So I'd like to thank Ray for bringing that up and giving his view on it.
He was just being a terrorist.
Right? It's the world, a world according to Ray. Speaking of the world, of course, the focus right now, obviously, still on the nomination process of Judge Brett Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh will win, and the interesting thing, of course, be what effect, if any, on the midterm elections. Now, as we've said about 8 trillion times a day, a week, let alone a month, is an eternity in politics. But it's my theory that probably the Trumpians, who've taken over the Republican Party, might have actually done better if Kavanaugh were defeated. And now that if Kavanaugh is going through, maybe some of these blue wave people who would say they're going to vote might actually vote. The blue backers tend not to vote. The young people, a lot of the minorities, you know, they whine, they piss and moan, but they don't vote. Maybe they'll be angry enough by the way this thing went through. You know, where they talked to 3 gerbils and a field mouse in this FBI investigation.
Did you have any
It's a joke. It's a joke. A total whitewash, and it's too bad that the Oval Office is running this investigation. That's not good for the prestige of the FBI and the credibility of it.
You raise an interesting point about young people voting. If you go on GoLocal right now, I don't know if you had the opportunity to see this morning, Nail Communications, based here,
saw that.
put out a phenomenal ad. Say what you will, whatever your politics are, of just old people.
Old guy like me, right.
Saying their positions.
Don't vote, we'll take care of Medicare and all that stuff.
We'll take care of the planet. We'll take care of everything.
No, don't vote. Don't bother me. Just keep, maintain my Medicare.
You gotta wonder if that was enough.
Especially older white men, animated by rage and frustration, they vote, almost to a man.
It's a great ad. You have to see it.
It's very funny when this sort of old person's face. It's very funny.
So you got to imagine the political talk shows will be the weekend ones at least will be fixated on this. You have to wonder what the fallout would be. Of course, as you said, you mentioned
the midterms. I mean, very, very important midterms. Which have been sort of trending Democratic, but their lead has been declining quite a bit the last few weeks, and I think partly because the Kavanaugh thing, because the people. Mostly in the Midwest and the South. I mean, the core of the Trump vote is basically the old slaveocracy, and they hate the Democrats, and they hate the fact that their boy Kavanaugh basically embarrassed himself, and so they're embarrassed by it. I think a lot of this stuff they personalize everything. So Kavanaugh, as far as they're concerned, sort of is them, even though he's actually his rich boy from Bethesda.
And we've had the interesting, that sidebar of the growing up and that culture there. But, you point to the midterms, but let's talk about the immediate press cycle. I mean, the press loves and they salivate around these
it's drama, it's got, everything.
So what happens Tuesday morning is, not as far ahead as, we're coming on 4 weeks now. But, they don't have that sort of punching bag to be able to go back and forth. What are they going to pick?
What are the next one they go on? The economy is, the job growth is slowing a bit. The economy is still strong, so that's not really it. There'll be other social issues. There'll be a lot of concern that Kavanaugh will help get rid of Roe v. Wade, which I wish they would. Send it back to the states.
Send it to the states.
Defederalize it. Yeah. So I think that'll come back a bit, and be more about economic inequality. There'll probably be a bit about that. But once Kavanaugh is confirmed, as we sit here yakking, I think he will be. I think the memories will be shorter than you might guess.
You did allude to that earlier, of the short memory.
In a week, there'll be some other thing. Could be the Chinese.
Yes, with Pence.
Could be. Yeah, I heard that very, very strong.
They're not very happy with the vice president right now.
No, they aren't. And, whether I think one of the big uncertainties is when the macroeconomic effects of the trade war will kick in.
So economy, foreign relations, of course, but the midterms will be here before we know it. Speaking of politics, we saw the big announcement yesterday from Independent Joe Trilla.
That was great. I don't know what what kind of retainer he's on from Gina Raimondo's campaign, but that's fascinating. Yeah, right.
Well, I'll tell you.
Very good. I guess there's more bad blood in that party than we thought.
It's the fallout has been fast and furious. The Republican caucus yanked her minority leader position.
I saw that. Were you surprised by that? I was, that it went that far.
Nothing surprises me.
Really? Yeah. Well, that's right. Yeah.
Nothing surprises me. So, of course, again, looking ahead, the election here, we'll see what next surprises have in store. But let's talk a little bit, Bob, about the Rhode Island Promise Program and some of the numbers that were released this week by the administration and some of the work that GoLocal did to uncover that CCRI is pointing to a retention rate of which they call the Promise cohort of 1,577 students who went simply straight from high school to the college. But GoLocal had the internal docs that showed the actual number receiving Promise scholarships. It was about half of that. Can they lump scholarship and non-scholarship students together?
I think GoLocal has probably looked at some of this stuff and so have other outlets, but I think we need more. There are a couple of other states have done somewhat similar programs. I need some comparative stuff. Also, it doesn't look that great, but I think you've got to let this thing flow for a couple of years to see how well this thing is working out. But there's got to be more promotion, more explanation. They have to manage the kids, the young people, more than they are. And I think we need more facts, such as are this comparatively low numbers? Is this due to because too many of these people have family obligations, other jobs? In other words, we need more sort of sociological data.
We probably do need that data, no two ways about it. And we do know that historically the number of kids going into CCRI who complete it in 2 years is low. I don't think there was...
And around the country, I think for similar schools, for associate
It's just not CCRI. It's not, simply not...
New York had somewhat similar numbers,
It is as nationwide as, again, young people who are trying to cobble together, paying for school. But how can you evaluate a taxpayer-backed program if you're lumping together folks who are paying de facto to go to school? There's different incentives.
Well, you're mixing up
you're mixing apples and oranges. So if you want to see,
difficult.
You got to break out the ones that are getting part of this program, and that's simply not what the college nor the governor's.
Well, again, I think we need whoever wins the governorship next month, which I think will probably be Gina Raimondo, especially with the help of Representative Morgan. We need to get far more sociological data, socioeconomic data about these people, and we need more comparative stuff from the rest of the country. What are the models in the rest of the United States?
I agree with you.
What state is approaching this most intelligently? And we don't really have that yet, I don't think.
No, the head of the faculty union at CCRI is asking for that exact raw data to really break it out to see, again, how are these students who are getting free tuition performing, approaching, returning. And you can look at the overall picture, but you need to look at each piece of the pie.
We need more information on their employment status, their family conditions, all that stuff. It's very early in the game. This thing's a couple of years old, and we just don't know yet. It doesn't look that hopeful. Of course, my old bête noire, if you want to call it that, is the failure to do more with vocational education, the trades. That's the future, I think, the trades. A lot of these white-collar jobs, service jobs, they're going to get wiped out by AI and the internet.
We have seen it already, fast food places.
Even the law is being affected by that. Accounting, I mean, journalism, well, we know journalism, the giant sucking sound.
So let's talk about, speaking of journalism, what's going to be in your column this weekend?
Well, I'm going to talk about, the infamous 610 connector. Now they're stopping it, they're delaying it again. Why? What's new? So I'm just posing a bunch of questions. I think this is clearly a response to the outrage about Route 195. The lane closures, but
there was outrage about
that. There's no real explanation. Why are they doing this? And of course, every minute you delay it, it costs more. So I'm basically just raising questions there. I mean, this is something, and the reason I lead off that can be a little bit dry, but everybody around here uses it, and everybody in this sort of 3-state area is on that all the time. It's also a hideously ugly road, and I hope they fix it up. I want to give kudos to the Bay campus of URI for the tuna project, the yellowfin tuna. They're beginning a research program leading to aquaculture, and I think that's very exciting. I've been down to the giant tank, but I do raise a psychiatric question: don't these fish get claustrophobic? And nobody's answered this question. Going back to politics, I think I think Governor Raimondo should give back the $12,500 to the Sacklers. The Sacklers folks are the people who own Purdue Pharma, which fraudulently marketed OxyContin and made billions of it, or hundreds of millions of it. And I think she got to give it back. She doesn't need the money. You know, that's like 2 Danish and a donut and black coffee.
Well, you saw we have the activists in the studio who made that big
Send
heroin
it back.
spoon.
Send it back. Send it back. I know the Sacklers giving money to everybody, and they like to plaster their name on the walls of famous colleges that don't need the money. I won't mention any.
One up to the north.
And I noticed that in David, our mutual friend David Jacobs' paper, there's something about a holiday market they're going to do on Newbury Street, I think, or Copley Square, and I suggest a similar thing in Providence. Maybe Westminster, Kennedy Plaza, Memorial Park,
I like
something
that
like
idea.
that.
They've done them up in Boston. They've done one in that
The City
City
Hall
Hall
Plaza.
and Plaza, but
The
now they're
only
doing-
nice thing that's ever happened there.
it has the expansive space, right?
Right, and
Isn't it-
average wind velocity of 100 miles an hour.
Isn't it riot proof? Wasn't it like
Yeah,
designed
that's
for
the idea.
that? all those great brutalist
That's
Cold War era
And
attributes.
do we have time? And NAFTA, very little effect. The long-term effect would be to raise prices a bit. The short-term effect would be insignificant. The dairy farmers supposed to be making it, well, it's going to raise, I think, the percentage of American dairy stuff in Canada, which is a sticking point, by 1 percentage point, according to the Wall Street Journal. And rather surprisingly to me, the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal, which is usually slavishly adoring of Mr. Trump, doesn't like it. They think it's bad for
Very
business.
interesting. Well,
They think
lots
it's bad
of
for business.
lots of food for thought here in the
Yeah,
Navigant Credit
yeah.
Union Broadcast
I
Center.
know.
But as always, appreciate your coming in to talk with us
Hey.
here. We'll let you go.
See you soon.
And we'll be
Happy
back here.
weekend.
Okay, thank you very much. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for kicking off your Friday afternoon with us here in studio. I'd like to welcome my next guest, Joanne Bellata, the campaign manager for Choose Wisely with the Rhode Island Business Group on Health. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate this campaign is just kicking off. You just came from a big kickoff event.
We did. We're very excited. We're now launching Choosing Wisely all throughout the state of Rhode Island. And the initiative itself is available to everyone. It's not just businesses, even though our name is Rhode Island Business Group on Health, but we are bringing it out to physician groups, to employers, to anyone in the community, because it's such an important topic. And the gist of the program really is about getting people to have a conversation with their doctor. Many people are afraid to ask their doctors questions, and sometimes the doctors too feel a little pressured by patients to prescribe things that they know really aren't necessary. So it's a really important dialogue. So we focus on providing information and education so that when patients are going for a physician visit, they bring this little wallet card with them.
Okay, so it's got the, so you don't have to remember it, you've got it right there.
Right here with you.
So go through the litany of things you should be discussing with your doctor.
The first thing you should be asking when a doctor is, prescribing a treatment or prescription for you for medication is, do I really need this procedure? Many times, doctors are very busy. They get maybe 15 minutes with the patient, and they don't have a lot of time to, talk through these things. But if you're feeling like you may want to know more, you have the right to ask that question. So by asking, do I really need this procedure, starts that dialogue with the doctor, and he can go into, whether or not that treatment's right for you. The second question is, what are the risks, right? Because many times, there may be side effects to medications or to procedures that you might have, and you should be informed about that so you know ahead of time. Maybe there's another option for you. And that's the next one. Are there safer, simpler options available to me that might not require surgery or taking a medication that may cause side effects for you? You may have other opportunities, so you should ask that question. And then the next one is, what happens if I don't do anything, right? That's okay, because sometimes it's okay to do nothing and wait it out, because it may ride out. Something like the flu, for example, if you're pushing to get an antibiotic doesn't really work on a virus. So you may be taking something that will build up an immunity to that antibiotic, and when you really need it, it won't be there for you, and you could have bigger and better health issues from that. So, asking if I do nothing, what are the consequences? And in that case, you ride it out and you'll be better. And then, how much does this cost? So many of us don't ask that question, right? We shop for everything else. When we shop for TVs and cars, we always ask, how much does it cost? But when it comes to our health care, we just assume it's going to be covered. And then later on, we get this surprise bill for $10,000. Oh my goodness, I didn't know that.
Where did this come from?
Where did it come from? So these are very important questions to be asking when you go in to your doctor. And your doctor wants to talk to you about that. And I think a lot of people think that I shouldn't question my doctor, or I'm afraid to question my doctor. But because of the Choosing Wisely campaign, the physicians are waiting for you to ask those questions, and they may even prompt them as well from you.
Well, it sounds like, again, a pretty common sense approach to really at the crux of it, the health of the individual.
Yes.
But it's also looking at, burgeoning healthcare costs.
Absolutely.
Both from a personal, business, and statewide perspective. So you kicked off the campaign today. What's next for the campaign, besides coming to the press and getting the word out there? Where are we going to find you next, Joanne?
The next place you're going to find me is out in the community talking about that, because you're absolutely right. The reason why we're doing this too is there was a study done by the National Academy of Medicine that said that $765 billion a year are spent on unnecessary tests and procedures. Okay, so these are things that people don't need. And that cost goes into what we're paying for health insurance. And if we can take that cost out by being better consumers of healthcare, then that's something that's going to make healthcare more affordable and accessible to more of us. And so by being out there, we're also convening a whole group of leaders from the health insurance community, the physician community, the business community, because we all need to work together. This is kind of the approach that we took with the seatbelt campaign and the anti-smoking campaign, where we brought everybody together and we all had the same message: wear your seatbelt for safety. And that changed behavior. How many people don't wear a seatbelt these days? So if we can do that and we can cut out low value care and reduce healthcare costs by reducing unnecessary tests and procedures, think about how much we can accomplish by doing that.
And where are you going to be handing out these cards? Do people have to see you in person, or can they go online and say, help me out here?
They can certainly go online. They can go on to choosingwisely.org. And if they go into choosingwisely.org, the patient resource section of that website has a list of not only these 5 questions, but it also has an array of materials that were developed by the American Board of Internal Medicine Foundation. And if you don't know who that is, that's when you hear a doctor is board certified. These are the people that are teaching and licensing and board certifying our doctors. They have developed this campaign and also all of the materials. So you can go on and you can find materials on lower back pain and imaging. Do I really need imaging? When do I need it? And what are my alternatives?
So for a number of issues that you might be facing, so you can be armed with a little bit of, as you said, that board
certified evidence-based information. But
Yep.
there's over 110 patient-friendly materials that are available up on that website on an array of different topics, and about 550 recommendations. So it's not only just for patients.
It's not the card. It's
more than the card. Physicians can also use it too, because they have developed recommendations that physicians can use to have a dialogue with their patients and know what the latest and greatest evidence-based recommendation is for that particular procedure.
So talk with us a little bit. You kicked it off today, and it sounds like obviously this was something that the Business Group on Health was really focusing in on. I mean, this must have taken some time to really get all together. I mean, this must have, I'm assuming, months, years in the making.
We started our effort back in 2015. And that started with getting a grant from the Rhode Island Foundation. They have been so generous with us. We've actually gotten 2 grants, and this second grant came at the beginning of this year and was for $90 million to help get the campaign rolling and get the message out across the state. So they've been very good to us. But we have been planning and working on this. We started a pilot back in 2015 with Coastal Medical, who has been wonderful, and they've incorporated it all throughout their practice. And several large businesses like Brown University was one of the early adopters, and Amica Mutual Insurance. And that has grown. So now we have over 17 large companies that are participating in this, and we have launched it out to all of our membership, which is over 90 large employer groups throughout the state, and out there doing kind of a grassroots effort to knock on employer doors and saying, hand this out to your employees, get the message out. And with physician groups as well. So Ocean State Urgent Care is also joining and going to be putting it in all 20 of their locations, as well as University Medicine, and we're talking to Rhode Island Primary Care. So we're hoping to get as much of this out in physician practices as well as the employer locations. So you will see Choosing Wisely everywhere.
Very good. And of course, if you watch after the fact, we'll be sure to have links up that if you want to read more, again, all of these resources available through the Choosing Wisely campaign, through the Rhode Island Business Group on Health. Joanne, I appreciate your taking the time to come in today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much. We appreciate your watching for the Noontime Friday show here, kicking off folks' weekends a little early. We wish everyone a great Friday afternoon and weekend. Be sure to check into GoLocalProv.com and catch us on Facebook throughout the weekend. And then again, it is a long one, so we'll see you back in studio next Tuesday here at the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel.